Do you enjoy drinking Cooper's Sparkling Ale and thought you wouldn't mind making yourself with a homebrew kit? Then come along with me and I'll show you step by step how easy it is while saving you some cash. Let's go. Hey guys, Musa here from Quantum Home Improvements and Solutions. Welcome back. And if this is your first time to our channel, it's great having you join us. So today I'm going to be making Cooper's Sparkling Ale, which is very popular. And this particular recipe was created by Thomas Cooper and his sons back in the late 1800s and is considered to be the big brother of the original pale ale. So if you haven't brewed before, I've got to tell you it's pretty easy, and I've been brewing for over 15 years and have had a lot of success and saved a lot of money. So I will put a link below in the descriptions if you're interested to get one. So the first thing you need to do is basically pull the lid off, which is this little lip here, and you'll find on the top here is the yeast. And you pull that off and we'll leave that aside till later. So also there are instructions here. All you do is just peel off this section that says peel here. So I'll put the instructions on the side just as a reference. So I went on the website just to get some more information about the sparkling ale, and I found that they actually had a slightly different recipe which is going to add to this. So they do recommend 3 light dry malt packets which are 500 grams each, so they say 1.5 kilos, but they also recommend that you put 300 grams of dextrose, which basically is just a white sugar but a purified version. So you can actually just use white sugar as well, so 300 grams. So now we're going to put this syrup in boiling water for 20 minutes and allow it to soften. So one very important thing to keep in mind when you are brewing is that everything is clean. So you have to have everything bacteria free. So to achieve that, you need to clean the fermenter. So this is the Cooper's 3-part system. So there's a lid, a sleeve, and then the main body of the fermenter. So you do get a spoon, and you also get a tap and some clips. So even though we need everything clean, you never use soap. Soap is not good for brewing. So what you need to do is sterilize and sanitize. Now there are people that just sanitize, and so they're very confident with their equipment, they're very clean, and they're sure that there's no bacteria. Now for me, I like to be 100%. So sterilize is basically just getting rid of all bacteria, and sanitize is basically just getting a surface level of bacteria. So in other words, if you do both, you're being more comprehensive and have a much greater chance of having a successful brew. But saying that, there are a lot of people that have a high success rate using Sterilize or Starzen or similar products. But you'll find a lot of the professional companies will do it this way. And I'm going to be using Country Brewer's chlorinated trisodium phosphate. So basically you just put 1 teaspoon per litre of water. I'm going to be putting 2 litres of hot water into this. So I'm going to put 2 teaspoons. Okay, so while that's cooling down, I'll put the tap on. So now I'm going to spray the tap on with a sterilizer. So Cooper's recommend you don't use oil on the seals. You just basically put some water around and just then put it in place. Okay, just give it a wiggle, make sure it's in right. So now just using the cloth, just dip it into the water and just give that a wash down. And just watch out, it is a little bit hot. But make sure you're comprehensive with your cleaning. Make sure you get everywhere. Okay, I will wash on the outside as well. I'll wash the spoon in there too. I'll just give the lid a quick wash. Okay, and then I'll just give the sleeve a wash. So this chlorinated trisodium phosphate is brilliant. You can actually see the dirt coming straight off it. You can see how effective it is. It works really, really well. Okay, so once you've done that, give it a quick rinse in cold water. Okay, so now just give the bench a quick wipe down. Now I'm going to spray it with a sanitizer, which is phosphoric acid. It's actually a food grade. So this can be sprayed all over the bench. It's actually going to help to reduce the bacteria. So it's fine to spray the bench with this. And you do not wash this out. You just drain it, but you don't wash it. So this phosphoric acid I got from Country Brewer. So basically it's just 30 mil to every litre. And this is a half litre container, so I've only got 15 mil in here. So it doesn't take much. Okay, so just a bit of a disclaimer. Even though I'm sterilising and sanitising, in an uncontrolled environment like a home, it's impossible to stop bacteria from coming into the brew. So you've got to be very careful. And all I'm doing is trying to increase the chances of a success. Okay, so just spray the sleeve as well. So all I've got to do now is just drain this fluid and then we can start making the brew. And I will put the tap back on again. There we go. Okay, so we'll just put the sleeve back on. And so now we'll just open the syrup tin. And I won't open it all the way, I'll just leave it partially on. Okay, so this is going to be pretty warm, so I'm going to grab a tea towel to carry it. All right, I'll pour in only 1.5 litres for now of hot water. I'm just going to keep a little bit on the side, and all we do is just tip the syrup in. There we go. And there's a lot of syrup inside, so what we're going to do with the remainder of the water is just pour that in. Give that a swirl. And there we go, we've got most of it. Okay, so now we're going to put in the 3 packets of light dry malt. So when you are putting in, you've got to be careful not to put it in too fast because malt tends to clog up and you've got to be really careful with that. Okay, there's a 2nd packet. So now we'll put the 3rd one in. So as you can see, it's starting to clog up a bit. That's fine. Just keep stirring that around. All right, so that's the 3rd packet. So Coopers recommend that you don't stir this too much. Now some people do worry that you can't get oxygen back into the brew. Now with the Coopers homebrew kit, because you're using fresh water, we use tap water. If it's a good quality, now that would already have oxygen in the water. If you are going to boil your own brew, you're going to make it from grain, you will boil out the oxygen and then you've got to put oxygen back in. So you don't need to do it in this case here. Okay, so now we're going to add the 300 grams of dextrose. And so I got this from Country Brewer. Now, if you don't have dextrose, you can use just straight out white sugar. Dextrose is just a pure version of white sugar. So I'll just place that in. All right, and I'll just stir it. Okay, so now I'll just bring the fermenter up to 23 litres of tap water. So if you are going to use tap water, you just got to make sure it's good quality. So I've been doing this for a while and it's always worked pretty well. Okay, and there we are, 23 litres. So the next stage now is to pitch the yeast, to put the yeast into the fermenter. But before we do that, we're going to get a hydrometer reading. Okay. We'll fill this up. Okay. Just put the hydrometer in and see what we get. Okay, so it's coming out at 104.9. Now, so Coopers say that this should come out at 104.6 if you follow the recipe on the container. But we're using the extra dextrose, going by the recipe that's on the Coopers website. So that's why it's a little bit higher. So this would be a higher percentage alcohol. Okay, so now don't put this back into the fermenter, just throw it away or just taste it. Wow, bitter but fruity. Okay, so now I'll just pitch the yeast. Okay, so I've let this sit for a little bit and just let this temperature drop a little bit, and it's now down to 21 degrees, which is the perfect temperature that Coopers recommend for this brew. Now, if you have a hotter climate or a colder climate, you can get different yeasts to suit your climate temperature. But I'm just going to use the yeast that Coopers have supplied, and this particular yeast they're recommending to be brewed at between 18 to 21, but you pitch the yeast at 21. Okay, I'll just take the spoon out. And I'll just put in the yeast. Okay, so basically just keep it in the middle. Okay, so don't stir that, just let it settle on its own. Okay, now we'll just put the lid on. Put the clips to hold it in place. And it's done. So now we'll let it sit for 8 days. Coopers do recommend 6 days. I go to 8 days to let it settle a bit more. Reason being because the light drying malt generally doesn't get consumed completely by yeast. So I just like to settle it a little bit more. So you do need to test it 2 days in a row to make sure that it's finished fermenting, that it's stabilized, and we'll do that as we get closer. Now, if the beer does heat up during this period, put it in a cooler spot. And if it gets too cold, put a heat pad or a blanket around it. It's the 8th day and the brew's now ready to be bottled. So it's been brewing at a really good temperature, around about 19 to 20 degree. And I've done a couple of hydrometer readings and it has stabilized, but I will get one more. Okay, this will make a bit of a mess, so we'll put a towel down. Just pour that in really, really slow so we don't get too much froth. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's see what level this is on. Okay, there we go. It's definitely stabilized at 1008. And so now going by Cooper's chart, the original specific gravity was 1049, which gave it roughly about 6.3% alcohol level or potential alcohol level. And so now we just checked it again, the final specific gravity, and it's come out to 1008, which give you roughly 1% alcohol level or potential alcohol. So now we minus that 1% off the 6.3 and you'll get 5.3. Now, in the secondary fermentation, which happens in the bottle, that'll go up another 0.5. So this will become a 5.8% alcohol content. Okay, so once again, don't put this back in the fermenter, either throw it out or try it. Wow, that's definitely bitter, but it's got a great taste to it. Okay, so now before we bottle, we're gonna sterilize and sanitize the bottles like we did for the fermenter. So we're gonna put in 1 teaspoon of chlorinated trisodium phosphate and only put 1 litre of hot water. Okay, we'll just let that cool down for a minute. So this bottle cleaner I got from Country Brewer. It's a brilliant little gadget. It helps wash your bottles really, really well. Okay, that's cooler now. Now, so what I'm gonna do here is basically place the bottle on top and push down, and it sprays the water inside and it cleans it beautifully. So I never wash my bottles out with soap. It's not good for the bottles, not good for the brew. And look at that, look how dirty the water gets. It really does clean it well. So when I finish washing, I'll put it on this bottle tree, which is made by Morgan's. It's a great product. So you basically just screw on more, and so this can actually take 81 bottles. Look how clean that gets. I have never been able to get my bottles this clean, ever. And the great thing about this bottle tree is when the fluid runs down, it runs into this tray so it doesn't go all over the bench. Okay, that's the last one. And so you can see how dirty that water is. So now when you wash them, actually more dirt will come out. So now you need to wash them in cold water and then we'll sanitize them. Okay, so now we're gonna rinse them out with phosphoric acid. So I've got 1 litre in here and I'm gonna put 30 ml in. So this phosphoric acid is in cold water, just like we did for the fermenter. So once you wash them out, just let them drain and you don't wash them out again. And so from there, we'll bottle the brew. Okay, that's the last one. Okay, so now, before we do bottle, we just got to do one last thing. So these caps, after a while, do lose their seal. So I'm gonna throw these out. And now I'm going to open a new pack. So when you do get these new lids, they do have a rim around them. You need to take those rims off. They're a little bit difficult. You just sort of break them off because they won't fit on the bottle again. And just watch out you don't distort the lid because it won't close properly. Okay, so I'll take all this back out. Okay, I'm just going to spray down the bench just with the phosphoric acid just to sanitize the bench a little bit. And I'll also sanitize the little bottler. And so this little gadget's how we bottle the brew. Just put some inside there. And I'll just put some on the tap. Okay, so now I'll just put the little bottler in. There we go. Grab a bottle. Open the tap. Okay, so the way this works, basically, there's a little valve on the bottom of this little bottler, and when you push it up against the valve, so push upwards, it releases the fluid into the bottle. And so the first one will be a little bit frothy, or the first couple. So we'll just let that froth over a little bit. There we go. Just put that on the side. One thing I didn't do is release the lid. So just to take some pressure off the bottle. So just take that off. Just lift that lid a little bit. Okay. To make this process faster, I'll have another bottle ready in my hand. So when this one's finished, I'll put the other one straight in. So this stage is actually better to have two people, because once you put the brew in, it's best to put the carbonated drops in straight after. So the carbonated drops I'm going to use is from Cooper's. Now these carbonated drops do exactly what they say. They carbonate the beer and they help in the secondary fermentation of the beer. So you put in a 750 ml or 740 ml bottle, you put 2 drops. If you've got a 375 bottle, you put only 1 drop. Okay, so as soon as you put the drops in, close it off straight away and do it tight, because if you don't do it tight, they will leak and then the beer will be useless. Okay, there we are. Another 6. I'll put some carbonate drops in these ones. Okay, so now we're getting to the end of the brew, so it's come up to the tap now. So Cooper's have designed this where they don't let too much sediment come into the bottle. Cooper's beers generally have a bit of sediment because they're a natural beer, but I don't throw away the brew. What I do is basically prop up the back, and these are just some cork boards. So I'll basically just lift that up and put the cork boards under it. Okay, so now that'll bring more to the tap. Now these ones I'll just put aside and I'll use them as my tester bottles. Okay, we're done. All I've got to do now is put the carbonated drops in these ones and it's finished. How easy was that? The Cooper Sparkling Ale is now complete and ready to drink in around about 3 weeks. And so Cooper suggests that you store their beer at around 18 degrees Celsius during the secondary fermentation period. So Cooper's beers are GMO free, which is genetically modified organism free, and they have the best after date. And so all their beers taste better the longer you leave them. And I personally wait 2 to 3 months. So I'm looking forward to tasting this sparkling ale and see how close it is to Cooper's commercially sold beer. And so a good habit to get into when you do make a brew is to write the type of brew you've made and the date that you've made it. And so one thing I didn't mention earlier is that I've had a lot of requests to make an alcoholic ginger beer. Now, I've spoken to Frank from Cooper's and he tells me they'll be releasing their new product in around 6 months to a year, and I'm really looking forward to making that video. So I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Frank for all the advice he's given me, and also I'd like to thank Dee from Country Brewer. And if you're interested, I will put a link for both of them in the descriptions below. So that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of it. And I'd like to remind you to please drink responsibly. And if you have any comments or any questions, just leave them in the comments below and I will get back to you. And I'd ask you, please consider to subscribe, hit the like button and share this video, and there's many more to come. Thanks, guys.